Welcome back to the Growing Band Director Podcast. This is episode number 170. Hanging here with Paul Baker from Baker's Jazz and More. Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing just great. Thanks for having me back. Looking forward to
Fantastic.
it.
For people who don't know Paul's writing, you absolutely should. One of the best writers, educational writers, I believe, in the country. Episode number 74, Paul and I hung out as well and listened to a bunch of his charts. What's new with you in the past year or so since we met?
Oh boy, lots of stuff. Got obviously 6 new titles that we're talking about here. A couple of commissions have been going out the door. A few more to do, as a matter of fact, thank goodness. A lot of playing, a lot of Broadway pit work kind of stuff, and just trying to manage the business and keep printing charts and ship them out the door.
If people are looking to do a commission with you or reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Paul at bakersjazzandmore.com. That's the simplest way.
Beautiful.
Or hit
and
me
it,
up on, oh, sorry, or no, on Facebook. If we're connected on Facebook, I'm findable there.
and if people have never listened to a Paul Baker chart, what's a chart that's not on here or a couple that we should listen to that are some of your more popular?
More popular ones, chart called Orange Drank, which is ARNGEDRANK, which is South Texas slang for orange drink. Although the late Dr. Ron Carter swore up and down it really should be called Orange Drink. So I don't know. It's too late to change it now, but I will acquiesce to him in some cases. Another one that's real popular is the Mudbug Strut. It's a grade 2 Dixieland kind of a tune.
Based on Saints Go Marching In.
Just exactly.
Yeah. Those are, I'll just going to pause you for a second. Those are the two that I wrote down. I mean, Mudbug is in my top 5 of tunes I would do. Educationally speaking, at least, there's so much to teach in there, and I find kids love it. Orange Drank is, to me, I don't mean this in a bad way, less of an educational chart and more of just a chart that kids just absolutely love.
Yeah, it was. I always write from a point of music, and hopefully it's educational too. But if not, at least it's musical. The kids are going to like playing it. The band director's going to like. He's going to like that the kids like it, and it's usually the audience likes it as well.
Yeah.
So Keystone Cups is another good one. It's based on changes for I've Got Rhythm. Features a trumpet section and cup mutes and kind of a beboppy kind of a tune. Fat and Sassy is kind of a sing, sing, sing kind of a takeoff. And a little bit of Gordon Goodwin stuff tossed in there. Hence the Fat, P-H-A-T, and Sassy. So wide variety. Last year's crop had a tune entitled Dreamin' in Swing Time that I'm very, very proud of. It's kind of a real slow, bassy swing ballad kind of a thing that I'm very, very happy with that one. Very proud of that.
What's the grade level of that one?
Dreamin' is a 3, I believe.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go listen to that one when we're done here.
Yeah.
A couple things that I really like about your music is original tunes, but based on standard tunes. So, I mean, to me, if you're playing original music, to be able to base it and teach standard tunes through it is great. And I know you mentioned last time we were together that you really try to feature every one of the sections as much as possible in your chart. So it's very common. I mean, a lot of times we have sax solos, but trombone solos, rhythm solos, and trumpet solos.
Exactly. Yeah, so that way everybody has some buy-in. They always have something to look forward to.
The charts we're going to play and listen to today, we're going to hear you talk about them a little bit, and I'll give some feedback, and we're going to play and show the score and sound. So anybody who's not watching on YouTube, you're always welcome to go to the YouTube channel and check these out so you can see them. Or you can just go to Paul's YouTube channel and check out the whole video, right?
Exactly.
And these are grade 2, 3, and 4.
Yes.
Correct? Great. All right, let's do the first one. Two Down Territory. This is the 12-bar blues. What does that name come from, and what's the chart about?
As with a lot of my titles, it's kind of I love wordplay. So 2 Down Territory in stage musician parlance, 2 down means 2 flats. So 2 downs, 2 flats, 3 up would be 3 sharps. So the key of A.
Yeah.
So that way, if you're in a bandstand and somebody calls a tune, and instead of saying, trying to yell across the bandstand and saying E flat, you just do that. That way there's no confusion. Did he say B flat? Did he say D flat? Did he say G flat? No, 3 down. That's E flat. Okay, so we all know. It's also a football term. I'm a big football fan. So two down territory is if you're say late in the game and you have to score a touchdown to win, or you have to get a field goal to win, and you've got a third down, you're not going to punt on the fourth down. You're in two down territory. You got to go for it. Is a kind of the situation. So it's a kind of a high energy, I would say high stress, but high intensity situation.
Okay. So tell us a little bit more about the intricacies of the chart.
Two down territory, it's based on just having fun. It's as a reference point, I'd say the Ray Charles band, Let the Good Times Roll, is the idea to go. So it starts off big, ba-ba-da, go on, ba-ba-da, and just trying to get that real hard, intense swing feeling right from the get-go. And then just push right through it. Saxes have the melody. So again, educationally, teaching the swing style, you cannot swing hard enough for this chart. You can lay it back. You can swing as hard as possible. The brass punches have got to be big and fat and laid back. This is all about attitude.
And your music usually sits really well. There's very few like sideways figures. Things seem to lay pretty well.
I do make a point of looking at that very carefully, particularly for the younger trombone players. I try and make sure that we're not going, 5-1, 5-1, 5-1, that kind of stuff, or that I'm having them, jerk way out there back in, or, if bass trombone, I can assume a trigger. So hopefully those things I can kind of work with. Saxophone, being a saxophone player, of course, I look at every saxophone part very carefully and try and make sure that not only do the parts lay well, but they're also notated well, so that they're going to be familiar, and they're going to include, instead of E sharps, you'll have F naturals, because somebody who's only been playing for a year or two or three maybe, as they know F natural. E sharp is on the moon someplace.
Yeah, as a band director, I appreciate you getting rid of some of those hurdles. That helps a lot. All right.
Well, as a saxophone player, I mean, even now, you look at professional charts and your Broadway shows that come in, and some of the key signatures and accidentals they choose are just mind-boggling. I don't need to see a D sharp minor arpeggio. I need to see an E flat minor arpeggio. Okay, if you want me to read this, give me something I can read. I don't want to. If I have to stop and think, I'm a bar behind.
Yeah, none of that in your music.
No, hopefully not. Hopefully not.
All right, let's listen to this blues. Two down territory. Okay, so as we listened to that chart, here's some things that kind of came up to me. First of all, people have to understand that in concert band, you read all the articulations on the page, but in jazz band, you do not do that. There are some articulations written, but you need to understand what's supposed to be played. And for people who are not quote unquote jazz players or experienced jazz teachers, the easiest thing I would say is take the written score that you have, listen to the recording that you have, and then notate where it's slurred, where it's tongued, and where it's accented to learn how to do that if your students are not at that level. Because what you're hearing is what you want to sound like, and it's not exactly what you're going to be seeing. So I'll just say that. There's ghosted notes in the brass in the beginning of that are really big. So articulation is just huge. That's a great grade 2 chart. You were to tell us about the background riffs that we kind of cut out the solo section there, Paul, but what's your intention with the backgrounds?
Yeah, there are background riffs provided for each section, for saxes, for trumpets, for trombones. You can use them in any combination. You can avoid them altogether. And ideally, again, from an educational standpoint, you want to have the kids make up their own, or let them get involved. And it's very, very common for that to happen on a professional bandstand. If a big band's playing the blues and the guy's playing, he's been playing a couple of choruses. Trumpet player might lean forward and play a riff, and then everybody picks up on that, and then there might even be a little call and response thing going on between either the soloist and the band, or from section to section. Trumpets might play a line, the saxes might answer it, all back behind the solo. There's a great tradition of that all through. If you go listen to the Basie band, the Ellington band, back in the real hardcore swing in the 40s and 50s, you'll hear a lot of that kind of thing going on.
I also want to mention that if people don't know this, the younger the grade level, the more backgrounds writers write in, because soloists are not as confident. So if you're in a band, and it's okay to take out backgrounds too, leave more open space. I know Terry White says that all the time. If you want to leave them out and give more space for your soloists, or maybe repeat it and have them play the second time, those are all things that as a director you have the flexibility to do if your students are able to deal with that space.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And another thing is it's perhaps dependent on the soloist. In other words, if you have a piano solo, you're not going to want a full brass section playing backgrounds back behind it.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to hear it. Guitar players can turn up. Bass players do not need a wall of brass playing backgrounds back behind them. So again, I like to think that my charts allow for some flexibility in the arrangement in that way, and that every director can kind of fit the arrangement to his particular group or her particular group.
Yeah, perfect. What was I going to say? I had something else and I forgot it. Oh, well, it's a great chart. I'm going to buy it. I love it.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm letting people know I'm not getting free charts out of this. This is not like a paid thing. I just love your writing and love the charts. And
darn right, you're not getting free charts.
That's right. That's right.
I need a check now.
That's right. All right, let's go to slide. Go ahead.
I was going to say one more thing about the articulation issue we were discussing earlier. Many times it's almost helpful to say everything is slurred unless marked otherwise. So if you have a line of eighth notes, that's all slurred unless you've got a house top or a staccato or something in there. I try to make a point of any Mike Williams, the former lead player for the Count Basie band, we were having a conversation, and he was very emphatic. There should never be a quarter note that's on the page without some kind of articulation on it, either a house top, staccato, accent, tenuto, whatever it may be, so that there's no question about what the articulation is supposed to be for that particular phrase. So I try and make a point of, I might even over-articulate my charts some, I don't know, but I figured the more information, the more helpful it might be.
Okay, the next tune is called Slideshow. It's a grade 2. It's based on the great Sonny Rollins tune Doxy, 16-bar tune, and this, as the title alludes to, features the trombone section.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just kind of a fun little tune to throw in there. If you have a strong trombone section, this will put them right out front. It's all going to sound good. It's very approachable, very playable. Tempos, nice, easy, medium swing. So it's just fun. Just sit back and swing and have a good time with it.
Great. Well, let's listen to it again. If people are just listening in the car or whatever, jump on the YouTube channel and you can see these videos. Here's Slideshow. Okay, so as we listen to that, a couple things came up in my mind. First of all, there's that short plunger part in the trumpets.
Right.
From the great Clark Terry, you have to put a hole in the middle of the plunger before you use it. So take a drill or something and actually drill out like a quarter inch, half inch hole in the plunger where the stem would go, so that when you close it, some air gets out. So people who are not brass players, that is a plunger 101, straight from Clark Terry, not from me. And the other thing I noticed too is in the trombone melody, I think it wasn't the soli, the melody. There's some repeated eighth notes. Anytime we have
Right.
repeated notes in jazz, you have to glue those notes really long together, or it's not going to swing. So that's what I wrote down.
Yeah. Do da do da do da do da. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. References, and for this and for the previous chart, Two Down Territory. If you're not really familiar with the history and the tradition of big bands and swing particularly, go back. There's an album by the Count Basie Band called Atomic Basie, and the other one is Basie Straight Ahead. Two of those are in the pantheon of all-time greatest big band albums. You'll find those cited by writers and players, and those are the two that we go back to more often than not. Neil Hefti, Sammy Nestico, great writers, and that's what the definition of the entire style that we're dealing with here. And of course, Ray Charles Big Band, you can't go wrong with that
Yeah.
either. It's going to swing really hard.
Well, it's really important that your kids listen to that music and that you listen to that music, because that's, even if you're not doing one of those charts, it's obviously in that tradition. And I mean, you just got to know,
Oh
you
yeah,
got to know the history.
yeah. Everything comes out of that. It's just like somebody in wind ensemble who's never played a Bach chorale before.
Yeah.
You've got you got to
Yeah.
go do that stuff. If you haven't played Percy Granger, you got to go do that stuff.
And if we didn't mention it earlier, that is based on Doxy, the Sonny Rollins tune.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. So our next chart is called Moving Easy. This is a grade 3 based on Don't Get Around Much Anymore by the great Duke Ellington.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that chart.
This is again nice medium swing tempo. This really has a chance to feature the rhythm section at the very top, and not in the way that you think. It's not a really flashy way to show the band off. It's very simple, as a matter of fact. It's very quiet. It's very simple. It draws all the focus, and it's really based on if you can swing or not. All it is, to start off, is just the bass line and the piano playing a melody with just one hand, no chords, no nada. So it's about as bare bones as you can possibly get. Just the melody and a bass line. And then from there, it grows all the way through the chart. It'll play the first 32 bars of the tune with just a rhythm section. A nice, quiet, simple kind of thing. And then alluding back to the Basie tradition, when the brass comes in, I think it's measure 32, right before the next A starts. It's, rip roaring, double F, triple F. Again, the main point of this is the dynamic contrast. We want to have something nice that the audience is drawn in, kind of like the Haydn Surprise Symphony. It draws you in, all of a sudden, bam, there it is, and hits you in the face with it. And then from there, the saxes take the melody, and it just swings its way out.
Yeah, you've hit two of my key components. I just had a T-shirt made that says "soft, simple music, good," and you have soft and simple in here. So
God bless you.
I love that. I love that. And yeah, just playing soft. People think jazz band has to be loud.
Exactly.
Because most of us can't play loud very well. So if you play really soft, then the loud sounds louder. That, you're right. Having the audience lean in, having been able to do that with some audiences before, it's a huge thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. The Basie band uses it to such great effect. Again, that's why we cited those two recordings. And any live performance you're going to hear, that is one of the hallmarks amongst many, I guess. Is that still a hallmark? If there's like 48 of them, with the Basie band, is dynamic contrast. And I write that on just about every adjudication sheet that I ever hand in. Dynamic contrast. I need more dynamics. I don't need mezzo piano to mezzo forte is not dynamic contrast.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when I'm working with the band, I'll say, just humor me. Play this section as loud as you can. And they look at me and they look at the director and they look back at me again. So, are you sure? Yeah, go, just try it. And they start, okay, just blast it out. And all of a sudden that brings them up to like maybe a forte. And they say, wow, this sounds a whole lot better, doesn't it? Yeah. That's because you're playing wind instruments. They're designed to have wind put through them, not a breeze. So yeah, dynamic contrast is everything for me.
I love it. I love it. All right, let's listen to Moving Easy, based on Don't Get Around Much Anymore. So if you're looking for a grade 3 chart that shows a lot of dynamic contrast for your performance next year or later this year, and you've got a good piano player to feature a bit, that's a great one. A couple things that I noticed the symmetry of that chart, right? It starts and ends in the same way, and then the middle part is obviously the louder section. We were done with the solo section on that. What are the chord changes like? We didn't listen to that part.
The chord changes don't get around much anymore, so
Okay.
they're all fairly diatonic, pretty simple. There's nothing too much out of the key.
I just think that's so important because a lot of people don't. A lot of teachers think of the chord changes last, whereas sometimes I think
Yeah.
of the chord changes first. Like, okay, who's going to solo on this, okay, well, if it's giant steps, we're not playing this tune, right? I mean, people think then they wonder why the solo section isn't great. Like, plan your solos for what your kids can play and grow to.
Exactly. Well, that's one of the things I learned writing the charts was you can, as a composer, you can have fun writing all the changes and all the harmonies you want. But when it gets to the solo section, if you've done that, then you need to really take into consideration who the soloists are going to be. If it's going to be a 13, 14-year-old kid who's just started playing, you don't want to give them giant steps. You want to give them, something like even for, say for a Latin tune, you might go with all the harmonies and energy and stuff, but then give them like a 1, 2, 5, kind of just a vamp, even or just a 1, 5, 1, 5 vamp for the Latin tune, which is very, very traditional and very much in keeping with the style, but it makes it much, much more secure for the soloist.
Another teaching tip that I would give people if they're going to do a chart like that, or that chart in particular, at the beginning and the end, when the hi-hat is happening, it says closed. A pro tip I heard from a drummer once is take the left hand and actually squeeze it with the left hand, and then playing it as well, so you get the softest, driest sound you can get. Because when the drums are playing too loud, everybody's going to try to play over them. So if the drums can be really soft, that helps that section be softer.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. It applies to every measure of any chart. The horn section will always play to the volume of the rhythm section. So if you want dynamics in your overall band, they have to start in the rhythm section. And then the challenge, of course, is when it gets quiet, is to not to lose the intensity.
Yeah.
So you can still, no matter what the tempo is, if it's fast or if it's slow, it can be quiet, but the intensity's got to be maintained.
100%. All right, our next chart is called Tienes Ritmo. If you want to know how that's spelled, that's Tienesritmo. For us in the Northeast, that would be Ritmo, but I know that's not how you actually say that. All right, this is our Latin rock tune. Tell us about this tune.
This was initially started off to be a kind of a Santana groove, like his tune Smooth. So I know a lot of bands have got guitar players who are just bored to tears going chunk, chunk, chunk. I want to play. I got a Strat in my hand. I got an amplifier. I want to play. I want to turn up. So this is a chance to really feature the rock band that is the basis of your jazz band. There's extended guitars on the melody, the keyboard. Ideally would be a electric piano, Fender Rhodes kind of a sound. That kind of a thing. So there's piano solo, keyboard solo, guitar solo, a full 32 bars each. There's later on in the chart, the bass player trades twos back and forth. There's kind of a call and response between the ensemble and the bass player. Again, written solos are provided for each of those instruments. And then at the end, there's the extended open drum solo. So your rock god drum player can finally let loose and show off and play before the final cascade ending happens. Tenor saxophone is also featured on the melody as well. So it's just a straight ahead Latin rock tune. It's fun.
Great.
It's just fun to bang through.
Great. Here's grade 4, Tienes Ritmo. on this same theme of all this jazz education stuff, on Monday, if people didn't listen to it, I had an episode come out with Jake Sturdivant on teaching jazz piano as a band director, people who are not piano teachers. Check that out if that is helpful to you. And I'm sorry, Paul, I misspoke. That tune, Tienes Primo, is a grade 3, not a grade 4. Just as you described it, and you said it's a minor version of rhythm changes. For people who don't know what rhythm changes are, what are rhythm changes and why should we know them?
Rhythm changes are the chord progression behind the Gershwin tune, I've Got Rhythm. It is probably the second most popular chord progression in all of jazz behind the 12-bar blues. There have been dozens and dozens and dozens of what they call contrafacts, new melodies written to be played over those chord changes. You know, Moose to Mooch, Oleo. I mean, Charlie Parker's got half a dozen of them probably. People throughout the history of the music have been writing new melodies for rhythm changes. I say even one. I was watching a video of Michael Brecker playing with one of his band, one of Metheny's band, or some band at a festival, and they had introduced a new tune with all the very difficult harmonies and thises and thatses and stuff. And it came time to try and solo, and he tried to solo over those weird harmonies and chord progressions. He said, "Can we just do rhythm changes?" Sure, no problem. And so they play all their hard stuff, and then it goes to rhythm changes, and of course he just shreds everything.
Yeah.
And then back to the hard stuff again for the rest of the tune. So it's one of these standard tunes. It's typically done as a major chord, so B flat major. So 1 6 2 5 B flat, G minor, C minor to F7, B flat major. So this is in a minor in the key of C minor.
Beautiful. All right, we're going to listen to 2 more charts, and these are both grade 4s. I think I'm correct in this one. The next one is called Deep in the Scene. It's written by the UT Austin jazz trumpet teacher, Mike Saylors. Tell us a little bit about this chart.
This is, Mike has been recently moved back to Austin. He does graduate work at UT here in Austin, and then moved to New York, where he spent, I think, about better part of 10 years playing very actively, doing a lot of writing, composing, arranging, and really absorbing all that language and all the vibe of the whole New York thing going on. And so that's kind of what is showing back up in this chart. It's very much in the hard bop language. You hear the word bop, people go freak out. This is really fast. It's not fast. The quarter note's only like 165. So it's an easy, straight and medium swing kind of a thing. It's about the vibe, the attitude. Starts off with trumpet and tenor, very much like the Blue Note recordings from the mid 60s, the combo recordings there. That's kind of the vibe. It's kind of it's a very, I want to say it's almost like a real more pure jazz approach than a jazz ensemble, music education stage band approach. This is what you might hear at a jazz club in New York. It's designed, the tune is kind of reminiscent of the tune that Miles recorded called Nardis, Nardis. But rather than using those chord changes, it just goes to a minor blues. So even if the melody seems might be put you off a little bit, just feel more comfortable that the blowing changes are just a minor blues. They're open and very accessible at a very accessible tempo. So.
And if anybody wants to hear any of these and they want to hear the solo sections, if you go on Paul's YouTube channel, he's got the full video up there, whereas these we're using are clipped for a little bit of time. All right, here's Deep in the Scene, written by Mike Saylors. Yeah, that tune does sound a lot like Nardis. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of that.
And I just mentioned as we were listening to it together off air that I love the harmon mute sound in trumpet too, along with the saxophone solely. That gives it just such. I think the word you used was color. That's really nice.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Nice little orchestrational touch in there. So,
Okay, one chart left.
Okay.
Tuesday's Blues Day. This is a thicker, denser chart.
Very much so. Very much so. This is not the Sammy Nestico voicings or the Gordon Goodwin voicings that you're used to. This is very, very dense kind of stuff. 8 and 10 note voicings. Very, very kind of clustery and very dense, all packed together. So it could be a challenge for, this is a grade 4, so typically younger bands are not going to be playing this. But it still might take some time to really work out. Is my note right here? Yeah, it really is. That A flat against that A natural, yeah, that really is supposed to be there. So.
You know, I have a story to share, especially on the brass side of things. I had a year where my brass section was a little bit younger, but we were doing not one of your charts by somebody else people would recognize, and it's a great chart. And I looked at the ranges and the demands that I thought. I looked at how long they were playing. I felt like it was within our capability. But by the end of us working on it, we never really got it with the brass section. And it was because I hadn't learned to think about how dense the harmonies were. It was another one of these charts where the brass was really harmonically dense, and we were never able to nail that, and that's why we never reached our full potential on that. And that was 100% on me. So people need to learn from my mistake there. It's not all about how high it is, but it's where those horn parts sit that makes it harder.
Exactly. To take on that, to build off of that, you mentioned where the parts sit. I was lucky enough to hear a clinic by a marvelous educator who made the point that it's not always so much where the parts sit, it's sometimes where the players sit. If you have two trombone players who've got a half step rub and they're sitting right next to each other, that's not going to ever be in tune, because they're going to be constantly trying to gravitate towards each other or fight away from each other. Separate them in the section. If you, literally physically have them move over a chair to where they got somebody else in between so they can hear how their part matches with somebody else instead of being right next to this sound that they're having to fight against. So that might be another option if that's an option for your ensemble.
It's a great idea. Never thought of that.
I didn't either. It's like, well, how much more playing could it be? That makes a lot of sense. In this chart, however, you like musical chairs constantly. Yeah. It's a lot going on harmonically. It's a great sounding chart and very, very cool in its way, but it is much more sophisticated harmonically than some people might be used to.
All right, let's listen to it. Here's Tuesday's Blues Day. Yeah, so I guess the recommendation I would have if somebody's thinking about doing this is don't use this chart to over program. If your kids can't reach that, don't do the chart because you need to have the drummer, you need to have the players and the confidence to do it well.
Exactly. And again, along with any piece of music like what we're doing for jazz band, go back and listen to the Thad Jones, Mel Lewis band from the 70s and the 80s, which is now the Vanguard Jazz Orchestra. Find those recordings, play them. You'll hear where all these harmonies come from, and you'll get the style that's being referenced with all that. The other thing about this chart is that it's, instead of pre-designed for only the tenor sax to play or only the trumpet to play, there's lots of solo space for any and everybody. You have room for as many players, horn players and rhythm players as you like. So it's very, very openable. That's a technical term.
You said it, so I'd say that it is. Paul, thank you very much for spending the time and doing this. Anything coming up that you're excited about?
Just the new charts hit in the market and getting them out there. As I got some commissions I'm working on, and I'll have some tunes played at Midwest in December, so I'm looking forward to that. And just keep on going.
And if people want to reach you, they should reach right out and say hi. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Paul at bakersjazzandmore.com. And you can reach me through Facebook or through the website or any of those things. So
beautiful. Be well, Paul.
Thank you very much, sir.
We sincerely appreciate you taking your valuable time and listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. Your students are very lucky to have a band director like you. If you have any suggestions for episode topics or think you have an area of expertise to share on a show with us, please reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to The Growing Band Director. See you next week.